we are going to see comparison operators. And for this, I've created a file called comparison.js in our operators and expression folder. So you can also create a new file and call it whatever name .js. Now, before we dive into the implementations, let us understand what is comparison operators. Comparison operators are operators that compare two values and return a result as a Boolean, true or false. For example, we have two numbers, 5 and 6, and we want to compare if 5 is equals to 6 or 5 is greater than 6. So in order to implement or carry on those operations, we have to know what is comparison operators. So now let us see our first examples. We will create a variable called num1. We can say 5, num2, and call this 6 assigned to 6 assigned to num2. Okay. So our first operator is the equality operator. So we are going to use a console. In later videos, when we start to compile all of those things that we have learned in the basic, if we start to compile them into building more meaningful applications, then we are going to use variable heavy. But for now, to understand this basic, let us try to use a console, the log. So now we can say console.log. And in here, to compare the two values, which is num1 and num2, we can say num1 is equals to num2. By the way, there is a difference between the double equals to and the single equals a symbol. Single equals symbol, as we saw in assignment operators video, this is used to assign values. In this case, we are assigning 5 to num1 and 6 to num2. But in this case, it's different. We want to compare num1 to num2. So hope you get that. So our answer or result here should be false. Should be false. So if we save this and try to run nodemon, and then the name of our file, which is comparison.js, or better still, we can just run like this. Okay. So now you can see false in our console because 5 is not equals to a 6. Now, let us move to the next examples. cons console.log, and here we can go with num1 equals to num2. And now we have a big question. What is the difference between the double equals and the triple equals? These are two comparison operators. They are responsible to check the equality of two values, but there are difference between both of them. For example, this first console, like double equals, is called the loose equality. So what this means is that, for example, you have a screen. Let us assume this is 5 but a screen. We have 5 here as a variable in a story in num2, but it is a screen. So what this is going to do is that it's going to compare. First, it's going to check if we have a screen. Since we have a screen, it's going to convert this into a number and then compare both of them. So we should have, instead of false, now we should have true. We should have true here. So for the triple equals to, or triple assignment, not assignment but comparison operators, this should return false because this check based on the tab. So if we save, now we should see true, false in our console or our terminal. So let us save this. Now you can see true, false. So hope you got the idea or the concept behind these two. So I will recommend that you use the triple equals, But by the way, based on your applications, you can go and try to look for the ones that best suit the applications. Let us move to the next examples. So this will be num1, and here we will have not equals num2. Okay, so now we have introduced new symbols here, which is these exclamatory symbols. In the Boolean algebra, we are going to call this negation. So what this does is that it tries to negate or switch the results we should have gotten from this operation. For example, num1 is equals to num2. Let us try to have 6 here. We will change this to 6. So num1 is equals to num2 is false. But we have the negation symbol, which is going to convert the answer into the opposite. That would be the opposite to true is going to be a false. So now we have false, and the answer should be true for this. So let us try to comment these two examples and then just run this to have the result. So if we save this, now we can see true in our console, because 5 is not equals to 6, but we are negating. So since we are getting false, and the negation is going to negate the answer to true. That's why we have true in our console. So now let us see another one. Console.log num1 is not. Again, we go with the same operators, but in this case, like the same concept with the above, two or straight and then loose equality operations is the same thing applies. The only difference is the negation. So if we save this, we should have a true. So hope you got the idea. Let us see another example. Con is console.log, and here we want to check if num1 is greater than num2. Num2. Okay, so we have 5 and 6. So what this is going to do is that, is 5 greater than 6? The answer is false. So if we save that, we should see false in our console, because 5 is not greater than 6, and these operations is checking if num1 is greater than num2. Let us move on to, first we will comment this and move on to the next console.log, and also num1 is lesser than num2. Again, the same thing, but the opposite to greater than. So in this case, we should get true, because num1 is lesser than num2. So if we save, we see in console true. Okay, let us move on to another example, console.log, and here we will have num1 is greater than or equals to num2. So greater than equals to. So let us see. We can maybe change this. Okay, yeah. We have 5 is lesser than or equals to 2. One of these conditions, as long as it is true, we should get the value of 2 being returned in our console or our terminal. So now in this case, we have 5 is lesser than 6. So the fact that one of the conditions is lesser than, they should return 2. So let us save this, and then we have 2. Let us also change this 6 to 5. So if we change this, now num1 is not lesser than num2, because 5 is equals to 5. So in this, we also have another condition checking equals to. So instead of going with the lesser than, now we go for the next condition here, which is equals to. So the fact that both num1 and num2 are equal, now we should also have 2. So we save this, we have 2 as well. So if we have And then let us say if this condition is like we have 50 above, now this should return a false because 50 is not equals to or lesser than or equals to num2, which is 5. So if we save, we have false. So let us comment this and move to our final examples. So this will be console.log num1 is, we have here lesser than or equals to, so the next will be greater than or equals to num2. So the same thing, but just in the opposite. So if we save, I guess we should have true. Yeah, because num1 is greater than num2. Num1 is 50, num2 is 5. Same thing. So hope you got the ideas. And with this, we will end the comparison operators video. And I would love to see you doing more examples and sharing some of your learning in the comment section down below in this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.